Welcome to Safety Spectrum, your environmental health and safety connection. This program is a presentation of the Michigan Safety Conference. For almost a century, the annual conference has provided credible educational opportunities and valuable support to the safety and health practitioner by offering 120 instructional programs, along with exhibits highlighting the latest in safety equipment, instrumentation, and demonstrations. To learn more about the conference, please find us at MICH, safetyconference.org. Welcome to Safety Spectrum. I'm your host, Sheila Ide. This program is sponsored by the Michigan Safety Conference, which has been bringing EHS training and education to Michigan for the past 90 years. Our topic today is becoming the best of the best, MIOSHA's voluntary protection program. My guests today are Doug Kimmel, safety consultant with Michigan OSHA program, and Honor Sheard, environment, safety, and security manager for Marathon Petroleum Company, Detroit Refinery. The Michigan Voluntary Protection Program assists employers and employees by providing a set of criteria designed to evaluate and recognize companies with an outstanding safety and health program. The program is designed to establish a cooperative relationship between management, labor, and MIOSHA. Participants implement safety and health programs that provide protections above and beyond what MIOSHA requires. Our speaker today will discuss this program. Doug is stationed in northern Lower Michigan, providing safety assistance to various businesses. He also acts as the MVPP specialist and oversees and facilitates the program for MIOSHA, and he makes the recommendation for possible candidates for inclusion into the program. Honor oversees the MVP program for Marathon in Detroit and will offer insight as to the benefit of an employer who participates in the program. Hello, and thank you both for joining me this morning. Doug, would you please start out by explaining to us what a MIOSHA consultant does?
Okay, a MIOSHA consultant, a couple of things that we do, a couple of levels within the MIOSHA Consultation Education and Training Division, or CET division. There are on-site consultants, and there are what we refer to as traditional consultants. Traditional consultants provide training to employers on their request, based on their request. We also will do hazard surveys or consultations, so basically walkthroughs, again at the employer's request, and also consultation on things like machine guarding or other safety issues that an employer may encounter in the workplace and want some assistance with.
And what is the MVPP, really, and who can qualify?
Okay, the Michigan Voluntary Protection Program, or MVPP, is Michigan's highest award when it comes to occupational safety and health. Companies that qualify for this award, one of the initial qualifiers will be injury and illness rates below industry average for each of the last 3 years. Another thing, after we get past that initial gatekeeper with the injury and illness rates, is having an exemplary safety and health management system.
So their I&I gets compared to other companies from their classification.
From their industry, correct, right. So we compare to like industries. So you know, if you are a manufacturer, we will compare you to other manufacturers that are manufacturing the same type of products that you would be manufacturing.
Is this Michigan stats or national?
This is whenever possible, we use Michigan data. Unfortunately, Michigan data isn't always quite as up to date as what the BLS data is. So if BLS data, Bureau of Labor Statistics, if their data, their federal data is more current, we will go with that.
When did the program start? Does OSHA have a VPP program?
Yes, OSHA has a VPP program. At the federal level, this program actually started in the early 80s as a pilot program with federal OSHA, has since expanded into a full program. MIOSHA didn't come into offering a VPP program, or what we refer to as MVPP here in Michigan, until the late 90s.
Oh. So what does it really take to have the best safety and health program?
Well, basically, like as I mentioned earlier, you have to have an exemplary safety and health management system. That basically, a safety and health management system is going to consist of 5 elements. That's management commitment, employee involvement, worksite analysis, hazard prevention control, and training. So a company has to be exemplary in each one of those elements in order to have a truly effective safety and health management system.
Well, who makes up the safety team when you go into a facility? Do you have enforcement involved?
No, we do not. Well, that's an area where Michigan differs a little bit from federal OSHA. Federal OSHA does utilize enforcement folks in their BPP program. In Michigan, we do not. This is all ran through our consultation, education, and training division. As far as who would be on a BPP review team, that is going to depend on where a particular site is located and who our management team may want to have on that review team. I will always be the, or at least I have been in the past, I have always been the team leader on all initial on-site reviews that we do at folks that apply to us for this award. Along with me, I will bring a safety specialist and an industrial hygienist. Generally, that's going to be the person that services the in which that company or site is located.
Honor, Marathon usually has construction activities going on. Is that still true?
We have some construction activities, but most of what we do is process equipment, and so running process equipment.
Okay, so if you had a construction activity like Pfizer or something like that, you would bring in a construction consultant, Doug?
I would certainly, yes. So if we were, in fact, the MVPP is open to companies and operations in all industries, all sectors. So whether it's general industry, if it is construction, the program is open and available. We currently have one company in the program that is a construction operation. And so, yeah, if a company does is in that industry, is in the construction industry, certainly we will bring along a safety consultant that is familiar with the construction industry.
I'll add, Holly Construction is a construction company that works for our site, and they're certified here. So it's a nice, they do sort of our day-to-day construction work. So it's a nice fit having both us and them certified.
That brings up an interesting question. If there is a construction activity or a subcontractor relationship, how do you evaluate that? Are they expected to meet the same criteria as the company you're looking at?
Well, what we would look for is the company that is applying to us. If they are going to have subs working for them, then we are going to look at what does that company do in qualifying those contractors. So it's going to be an expectation that before they're going to hire a sub, they are going to make sure that those subs again, have injury and illness rates that are going to be below industry average whenever possible, that they're going to have effective safety health management systems in place. And if they didn't have some of those things and a contractor still elected to hire those folks as a sub, then it would be an expectation that that contractor would work with that sub to help them bring their programs up to a higher level. Now with resident contractors, it's a little bit different. And so I'll let Honor talk about what Marathon does as far as when they are looking at bringing in contractors, such as a resident contractor like Holly Construction.
Yeah, we do a full review of every contractor. So we look at things from their injury rates, their insurance scores. We evaluate every single program that they have. We audit them. A lot of times you can tell right away, just sitting down, talking to them, how serious they really are when it comes to safety, and just by the depth of their program. If I'm talking to them about fall protection and I'm getting blank stares, I know, it's not a good fit. So we have a minimum that all our contractors have to meet. And then like Holly, they go the extra step because they know it's the right thing to do, and they're in with us for the long haul. But we also look at it, every year with our contractors. We sit down with them, me, maintenance, purchasing, to talk about, hey, where have you been? Where are you going? Do we have concerns? Or, hey, you're doing great. You're supporting our behavior-based safety program. Keep it up. So being able to have that conversation with them keeps it in the forefront that it's important to us.
So you're an influencer, basically, if you have a subcontractor. That's a good thing. Mm-hmm. So they would have to report any injuries or any accidents that occur then.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you evaluate that, Doug. How often do you reevaluate a company?
So right now we are on a schedule to go back and take a look at the site every 3 years. We go back and do a reevaluation to make sure the site is maintaining their standards and their levels of safety that would have been observed when we would have performed the initial on-site review. In addition to that, in between those times, when we come back on site to do the reevaluation, sites also are required to submit on an annual basis an annual self-evaluation. They would submit that to me. In that, they're going to talk about basically what they are doing as far as safety and health and how they are working to continuously improve, because that's a big component of VPP. Once you are in this program, it's not that a company can then sit on their laurels and expect that you've made it, you've now achieved this highest award. It's all about continuous improvement, and we of course expect to see that. And with that said, I mentioned that we are on a 3-year schedule right now. Starting next year, we will be moving to a 5-year schedule. So what we have seen is that with our VPP companies, they do a very good job in the area of safety. They do a very good job with continuous improvement. And we actually have an advisory committee that is made up of representatives from our VPP sites. And this is one of the things that they approached us with, to see, would we entertain the idea of them going to a 5-year schedule rather than 3-year. So we took some time, we did some pilots, we investigated, and we determined that this is something that's workable. So we will be going to the 5-year schedule for reevaluations.
As part of the self-eval, I assume they would have to give you the injury and illness rates for that past year. Does that ever impact their status?
Well, it certainly could, and definitely that is one of the categories when they're filling out the documentation for their annual self-evaluation. They certainly have to provide us with injury and illness data that they have experienced over the course of the last year. And yes, if their injury rates go up, so maybe they're not above industry average, but they have risen since the last year, then they are going to let us know what kind of transpired, that why did they have more injuries, why are the rates going up. But that's really not that big a deal. They basically just have to let us know something. Now, if their rates have risen to the point of where they are now above industry average for the prior year, that's going to be a more sticky situation. Then we will probably get into looking at putting that site on a rate reduction plan where they'll have 1 year to bring their rates back below industry average, or they may be asked to step out of the program.
And that has happened, I assume.
Definitely. Yes, we unfortunately have had some sites that were put on a rate reduction plan and were not able to get the rates back under control and back below industry average. And we have had to ask those folks to step out of the program.
Are there different levels of the VPP?
There are a couple different levels. There is the star and the rising star. So what the rising star is, if a company should apply to us for this award, and we determine that they look like they are a good candidate for the award, and we go out and do an on-site review, and of course, again, evaluate them on the 5 elements, and we determine that maybe 1 or 2 of those elements, maybe they're not as good as they could be. Overall, they're doing a really good job, definitely above average, but there's a few things that they need to tweak. Then we could recommend Rising Star. And within Rising Star, they then would have 2 years to bring their program up to snuff. Of course, we would give them suggestions and recommendations as to what we feel it is that they need to do and where they need to improve. And then, of course, monitor them over those 2 years. And then at that time, after the 2 years, if they indicate to us that they feel their program is at star level, we will come out to do another evaluation. If we determine that, yes, in fact, they are at star level, then they'll be moved to star level at that time. If after those 2 years, they have not brought the program to where it needs to be, or we don't feel that they have, then we're going to ask those folks to step out of the program.
Now, Honor, you have to do an annual self-eval, and then there's a re-eval every 5 years. How long do you think it takes you to put that evaluation into effect?
I would say a couple of weeks, 2 weeks maybe, for that annual review. The nice part is it's at the beginning of the year. So you've already gone through your year's goals, your accomplishments, and what you're going to be doing for the year ahead. So you have sort of the homework done. You know, a good organization is constantly looking at their metrics, they're looking at their programs, assessing their goals. So then you just got to package it up into that application.
Of course, the emphasis is on prevention as opposed to after the fact, which a lot of us end up counting what happened instead of what hasn't happened. We talk a lot about safety culture. I'll throw this up for both of you. What do you believe a safety culture is? What does it look like? What does it look like at Marathon, Honor?
The big piece we try to stress is everybody is a safety leader. Everybody has a responsibility to each other to keep each other safe, right? I love the people I work with, and I do not want anything happening to them. So anything I can do to help them, anything they can do to help the person next to them. And part of it's just, you know, many of our folks, they work 12-hour days, 5 days a week together. So a lot of times they're seeing, you know, their work family more than their real family. So keeping each other safe and protected, and being open about that is the biggest thing. So being a safety leader, willing to have that hard conversation with the person next to you.
That's good. Doug, what do you feel a culture is when you walk into a company? What do you see?
I would definitely second what Honor said. She's 100% right. It's that concept of I am my brother or sister's keeper, that I'm going to watch out for others on that job site because I want them to go home safe and sound every day. And hopefully that's what they want for me. And they are going to say something to me if they see me doing something, and I would say something to them if I saw them doing something. I think also another portion of the culture really goes into the management-employee relationship. And that is something that we really do try to ferret out during the course of a VPP on-site review, because what we will do is we will interview many employees during a VPP review. We'll also talk to management while we're there. But what we really want to see is that management is actively seeking input from the employees. The employees feel free to give input to management without fear of retaliation, and that they're working hand in glove together to make everything better at the site. So, and what we normally find is that when a site or a company builds that relationship, not only will you see improvements in safety, but you see improvements in all aspects of their business, because now you have a group that is working towards a common goal, and that is to continually get better. So you see improvements in quality, you see improvements in productivity. It really, the whole thing just starts to get better because of that culture and that relationship.
Well, it seems like morale would be better if you feel like you're a valued member of the team and what you say is going to be listened to and not being punitive about it, which kind of leads me into a management commitment, which I think you've kind of described. Can you give me some other examples of where you've seen an interesting management commitment?
Well, yeah, certainly management commitment is a big one, because management has to be committed to this. If you are going to be the best of the best when it comes to safety and health, they have to be committed as far as resources, as far as involvement in the program, as far as seeking out employees and getting their feedback and input. So definitely, they absolutely have to be involved. To give you a couple of examples, there's a couple that really stand out in my mind that I have seen over the time that I've been involved with VPP, which is for about 20 years now that I've been the VPP specialist. So I've seen a lot of things and had a lot of experiences with this program. But one of the things that definitely stands out to me is, and this relates to Marathon actually, and Honor probably knew this gentleman, George Schaffner. And George truly impressed me when I was at the site, because one of the things that George tried to do, one of his goals, he was the site leader at that time, and one of his goals was to get to know the names of all the people at the site, all the employees that work for him at that site. And now imagine, this is a site of probably 400 or so employees. That's a pretty big task for a person to do that. Of course, we thought that was an honorable thing when we first talked to George and we interviewed him, and he had mentioned that. Of course, then after hearing that from George, one of the things we wanted to do is to verify that, and which is what we always do through a VPP review. When we hear something, we verify. And so I happened to be interviewing an employee. As I mentioned, we interview a lot of employees. And while I was interviewing this one employee, he was telling me how he had came to work one day and had to use a stock pair of coveralls or overalls. He did not have his regular pair of overalls that would have had his name on embroidered on the chest of the overalls. And he said he had seen George around the plant, but it had been a few weeks since he talked to him. And he said one day he was walking through the plant. He was wearing these overalls without his name on it. And George saw him, came over to him, stuck his hand out, shook his hand and said hello, and said, "Hey, Steve, how are you doing?" And, and this person related to me that, George remembered my name. and how much that meant to him. His site leader took the time to get to know his name. I just got the feeling in talking with this individual that he would have gone to the ends of the earth for George, that he just so appreciated the fact that he was valued, and George demonstrated that value.
And I'll add,
Sure.
because I'll add, George also knew if you were married or had kids and could just spark up that conversation. And if he didn't know you, he'd walk over to you and ask you your name and get everything. And just, he made you feel valued as a person, and not necessarily just a worker. He was great. We were just talking about him today.
I was thinking that's so important to show that you care about the people that are working for you. They're not just cogs in a machine. And that's sometimes hard to reach, especially in a far-flung operation and 1,000 people. And it's really important for just changing people's behavior too. If they feel like they're important to you, then they're going to do the best they can. And a lot of times it seems like people just want someone to listen. They don't necessarily want you to solve the problem. They may understand you can't solve the problem, but if you just hear them out, and it's more of a friendship type of relationship. What about employee engagement? When you interview, you probably ask questions about how involved people are. Does management pick the team picks the people you're going to interview, or how does that work?
Definitely not. No. What we will ask management for is a roster of their employees. From that roster, we will select employees that we want to interview. And those are what we refer to as formal interviews. So for these interviews, we are going to ask the site or the company to provide us with some rooms where we can do interviews. Normally, every member of the team is interviewing at the same time. So say if there's 3 members on the team, we have 3 interviews going at the same time. And we'll generally devote a morning or an afternoon just to interviews. So what we will have done is each one of the team members will have gone down through that roster of employees, chosen employees that they would like to talk to. And normally what we are going to do is we're going to look at that roster of employees, and we are going to choose from folks based on various job titles, years of service, those type of things, because we want to get a good broad range of employees. So newer employees, more experienced employees, craftsman type folks, production folks, maybe clerical folks. So we want to get that broad range and make sure that everybody is involved in part of that system. But no, definitely we do choose our own folks for the interviews.
Well, that's good to know. Gives us some credibility, I think. How do you verify that training is effective?
Well, there's a couple of things we can do to verify training is effective and find out what type of training these folks are being offered. What does the company do? What kind of training do they offer? So once we know that, once we know what kind of training that they have offered and what their employees should know, then we will go out and observe the employees in the workplace. Are these employees working as they were trained? Also, during interviews, we will question folks about the training that they have received. Question that we frequently ask, would be, what was the last training session that you attended? What did you get out of that training session? What can you tell me about that training, and why do you feel that was worthwhile training?
Honor, don't want to put you on the spot, but what about training that you have to do annually? What do you do to change it up a little bit? I'm assuming, sometimes we kind of give the same training over and over.
Yeah. So we do have our standard sorted training, regulatory required, but we do try to make, your job function and the training for your job more meaningful. So we might break that down on a shift to talk to our workers about that specific example or specific topic rather. One of the things we're doing now, we have what we call a monthly safety sequential. And we've changed it up this past year to really be like a mini training session. So yes, you heard all the words about drop tools, but hey, let's talk about it for an hour this month and talk about it. What are we seeing in trends? What can we do, to prevent drop tools? And so we can use, these snippets of time to really have conversations about the training and learn from each other's experiences.
So it's ongoing. It's
ongoing.
It's a living thing.
Absolutely. And it allows us to quickly adapt to what the site needs. So if we're seeing a trend in fall protection or something else, we can go, hey, this month we need to talk about this topic and really understand and share some of the issues we've had and how they should be dealt with.
So you're looking for feedback from the
Yep.
employees?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because a lot of times, right, we write a safety procedure, we try to get people engaged in that process, but when you actually go do it, something changes. So you have to have that feedback to make sure that you have the best procedure laid out, because people won't follow it if they can't.
True.
So trying to understand where those roadblocks and where they need help and where we need help and how you can merge the two.
Yeah, you sometimes see where an engineer or an architect writes something up for a job procedure without ever walking the plant floor or understanding or getting input from the people who actually do the job. So that's what you're looking for, Doug, I assume, in a VPP company, is that they are listening. They are reviewing what people are saying. People, sometimes I think they think they're lazy because they want to do it a different way. It's just that they know how to do it better, usually. And if you don't hear that, you're not going to change. Can you give me some examples of companies that you thought were kind of interesting from one of these 5 elements?
Really, so many of our companies are very interesting. Obviously, just in the job that we do as safety consultants, you've seen a lot of different things out there. But I guess, are you looking for examples, like just in kind of what a company does? Are you wanting
something
to know
innovative, maybe, that you saw that you thought was kind of interesting that a company did?
Okay. There's some examples related to management commitment that I can think of right off the top of my head. Well, we talked about George Schaffner, of course, and one of the things that he did. But there was another site on the west side of the state, and in that example, that was at Johnson Technologies, and Johnson Technologies is a wholly owned subsidiary of General Electric. So they follow all the safety protocols of GE, which you can imagine are fairly extensive. And but because they are a subsidiary, the 2 sites in Western Michigan that Mr. Jacobone oversaw were, he was the president of those 2 sites, because again, it was a subsidiary. So what Mr. Jacobone did is he created a calendar, and on this calendar every month, each of his direct reports, so his accounting manager, his purchasing manager, production would show up, their names would show up on this calendar. And when there would be a shift assigned, and there would be an expectation that they do spend time in the plant during those shifts that they were assigned as per the calendar. And again, Mr. Jacobone did not want folks just to be out in the plant looking for safe quality of production issues. Mr. Jacobone wanted his folks to be out, basically intermingling with the folks, getting to know the folks, like Honor just mentioned with George, getting to know, about their family. Are they married? Do they have kids? Are their kids involved in sports? What do they like to do? What are their hobbies? Again, building those relationships and getting to know folks. But this was a 24/7 operation, and so they worked around the clock, 3 different shifts, and on that, so Mr. Jacobone, the president of the company, of the subsidiary, his name would show up on there. So occasionally his name would be on there for 3rd shift. So it would be an expectation that he show up in the plant at 2 a.m. and spend an hour to 2 hours in the plant, again, just mingling with the folks. And again, in talking with the employees and doing interviews with the employees, especially those on 3rd shift, just what it meant to those folks to see people at that level that was actually interested in their shift, which in a lot of companies, their 2nd and 3rd shifts, really don't get a lot of interaction with the management folks, but also not only being there to kind of show their face there, but also being interested in the people and wanting to know about the people. Again, as you mentioned earlier, the morale and the relationships that are built are just fantastic. And those are, some unique things that I have seen.
Do you have both union and non-union companies in the VPP?
Absolutely. In fact, either or are eligible to apply. It really doesn't matter to us. And I would say about 1/3 of our sites are unionized and about 2/3 are not. But either way, whether you're unionized or not, we're really looking for that relationship. So yeah, we have unionized sites, and a lot of times folks will think of a unionized site and think maybe the relationship may not be all that great between management and the employees at a unionized site. But we have found through VPP that yes, that relationship can still be a fantastic relationship and still have the union kind of in play at the site.
So are there separate issues that do you deal with the union officials or just the company as a whole?
Well, we deal with the company as a whole for sure, but definitely when it comes to having a union, there are a few additional things that need to be done. We need to get some commitment, so basically a signed commitment from the union president or the union steward that they are on board with this site going for VPP. And certainly while we are on site, during our interviews, we will certainly talk to either the union president or the union steward, whoever the highest ranking union person is at that site. We will definitely talk to that person and make sure that, again, they are on board and to verify the relationship with management.
Honor, was there any other programs that come to mind at Marathon that you want to talk about that you think are unique to Marathon?
When the new ones, and not so much newer, but it's a fantastic, we kind of tweaked it last year, is our near miss program. So a near miss is where something could have happened, could have hurt somebody, but for some reason it didn't happen. So it's not an incident, but hey, we want to know about that, right? Very few times do we get leading indicators of what's going on in the plant. So near misses are a good leading indicator. And before, we had previously had really good reporting. Our employees are willing to share what's going on. But it was written on pieces of paper. They were in boxes in 20 different locations around the plant. So I'd have people pick them up once a week, enter them into a system. You can imagine, I don't know on a daily basis what's going on in the refinery. So we, COVID kind of sped this up. We initiated a QR code system, knowing that people have cell phones, so they can scan the QR code, enter the information, which was fantastic. I think the first month that this happened, we had this giant snowfall and one of our contractor lots didn't get plowed. They immediately sent us near misses, and we're getting emails because it now sends an email to the area owner, to the safety rep for that area. And we, within an hour, were able to get that lot plowed. That's fantastic. We can solve
communication and taking care of the situation. And
it shows the employees that we care about them because we can go fix it. Now, some of them can't be fixed in an hour, but that was a situation where we definitely could have gotten.
It wasn't weeks later that you found out immediately.
Right. And, snowfall is an injury every year that you're, trying to deal with. And in that situation, we were able to prevent it. And the other benefit we saw was our contractors were a little less engaged in the near miss program, just because they weren't always at that location with the box. So now that their break tents had this QR code, they could go on their break at lunch and enter something. They didn't have to take it to their foreman, that type of thing. They could just share the information. And that's been really helpful for us to figure out what's going on and share the safety messages, fix things, all that type of stuff.
So you have the different companies share these innovations with each other.
We do through our VPP mentors meetings, and these meetings we hold twice a year, and they are open to representatives from our VPP sites. Also, the others can attend as well as invitees of a VPP site. So if a VPP site has been mentoring a company and kind of bringing them along towards VPP, and they would like to have a representative from that site, they are certainly welcome to bring someone with them to sit in on these meetings to kind of hear kind of what's happening in the VPP. Within the MVPP and these mentors meetings, this is an opportunity also for those representatives to ask questions of others, to network with others that basically are at the same level or have achieved the award just like they have. So folks that are kind of at that level with their safety and health management system to bounce questions off others and see, if they have a particular issue that they are dealing with at that time. Another thing that we do with our VPP companies, as I just mentioned, we do expect them to mentor others. So, and maybe a company or a site really has no plans at the time to come into the VPP, yet they're looking for some assistance. They can turn to one of our VPP sites, and it would be an expectation that if that site could help them and mentor them, that would be something that they would do. So with that mentoring aspect, we want to make sure that all of these sites are really up to speed on what's going on with MIOSHA, with federal OSHA, whether it's new standards that are coming down the pipe, or it could be with changes to existing standards, those type of things. We want to make sure that these folks are on the forefront. So if they get approached by someone and asked a question about a standard that may be changing or a new standard that's coming, they will have that information to share with those folks.
Well, it's a shameless commercial for the Michigan Safety Conference. I've been with it for many years, and I think that was one of the big benefits is you're meeting with other safety professionals, and you can call the head of a company with a problem that you have, and you can get an answer. I mean, it's just amazing how that works in the safety world and the environmental world. We all kind of want to help each other. So mentoring is an expectation of the VPP program.
Yes.
And one thing I was going to ask you was when you're on site doing an evaluation, what if you find a hazard? What if you find a problem?
Well, if we identify a hazard, we tell the site right up front when we first start an evaluation is that, we don't expect a site to be perfect. We know we are more than likely going to find things. Even a site that does a really good job in the area of safety and health, no one is flawless. It would be an unrealistic expectation to expect someone to be flawless. So what we really want to see is with a site is if we identify something, how do they react to it? What steps do they take, and how do they go about correcting this? What type of interim measures do they put in place if interim measures are needed? And basically just how quickly do they react to that? We also let folks know when we first get on site for an evaluation that it is an expectation while we are there. Anything that we should identify, it would be expected that it be corrected. If it's something that reasonably could be expected while the review team is on site, that it be taken care of. So, and if not, then we'll work with the site on some timetables for getting those issues addressed.
Pretty good way to evaluate the program, I would think. I'd like to ask Honor one more thing. What do you see as the benefit to being a VPP program?
I think there's a couple things. One, we get to show our employees and our community that, hey, we are working to be the best in Michigan, to be one of the safest sites here, to have assurance in what we're doing. And then I really do think for our employees, many of them have come from other industries, so they see the difference. They're bought in. But it's a lot of hard work, especially some of our contractors, it's a lot of hard work to maintain this level of safety and always getting better. And so it's a celebration. It's it's that cherry on top that, yes, I have a straight A report card, it's something to brag about. And it really is, because then you can go, talk to your buddy about it and, hey, I love what we do. I know that we're going to do the right thing every time. And I'd just say for our company, it was really set as an expectation. If you want to be part of Marathon Petroleum, we will be VPP. We will be the best and the best. And we want to show our communities, our stakeholders, that we are committed to our people, to our communities, to be safe and responsible, because that's our number one value, which I appreciate. And it makes our jobs easier. It's easier to bring great talent in once they start to see, hey, they mean it. They're not just saying they're safe, they mean it.
And I would assume if you have that kind of attitude, it's throughout the company. It's, your production, your environmental, all the other things that go into a company.
Absolutely. So
you have the same level of commitment.
On top, environmental, product quality, mechanical integrity, how reliability, how we keep the plant running. It's the same attitude in all those areas.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It is a tool for recruitment. Absolutely. They know it's a good company and you're going to get good employees because of that. Also, there's no enforcement activity, I understand, if you're a VPP company. I know that's not why we do it, but it must be fun. So mentoring and probably better communication with MIOSHA too. Because Doug said that you're on top of any new standard that comes out and interpretations of it. And so that's great.
And people still do have concerns, even when you're the best of the best. So when MIOSHA does come in to ask and investigate, it just means we have an open door. They know right from the first step that we're going to be open and honest with them. We're going to share all our information. And if there's something to learn from what's going on, we're going to take action to learn from it. So it sort of sets the stage for the work ahead for both groups.
That's great. So really, you can use the program to evaluate your safety and health management system. The continuous improvement must be the hard part, though, for a company. Once you've got there, you've got to stay there. But
I think any good company, if they're a good company, they're trying to continuously improve. If you're staying in one spot, I guarantee your competitors not staying in that same spot.
That's a very good point.
There's always something to learn. And that's what we talk about, is we're a learning organization. People make mistakes, systems make mistakes. We got to figure out how to make it better every day.
Okay. Doug, do you have anything that you'd like to add as a final thought?
Just that for folks that are contemplating applying for the VPP, which we certainly obviously hope that there are folks out there that are, some folks will look at this sometimes and think, oh my gosh, this is almost an unattainable thing. And the fact that we have sites in this program indicates the fact that it is not an unattainable thing. It certainly can be obtained. And yes, it's going to take some hard work, but the work is worth it. And that's been demonstrated as well. And as I mentioned earlier, that you will see gains not only in safety, but in environmental, in productivity, in quality, that the entire organization gets better. And in this program, any type of program like this, where you are looking at these types of improvements, it's management and the employees working together. It is management driving this and making it happen. Sheila, you alluded to this, that it's not just a site thing, but a company thing, because a site could do this if you're part of a larger corporation, but it's going to be difficult without having the support from above. And certainly if you are just a standalone company, which again is absolutely fine to apply, but again, management's going to have to be on board and driving it and supporting it. It's not something that management or that the employees can just do on their own. It's going to have to be management and the employees working together.
And I like what Honor said, it's about the people and valuing the people.
Absolutely.
Well, I'd like to thank Doug and Michigan OSHA. I'd like to thank Honor Sheard from Marathon Oil. If you'd like to contact us about this program or the Michigan Safety Conference, please check us out at our website at safetyconference.org. Thank you for listening to Safety Spectrum. This is your host, Sheila Ide.